Hi, and welcome to Don't Shrink to Fit, the winner of the 2024 Women in Podcasting Award in the coaching category. I am your host, Claudia Noriega-Bernstein, and I am thrilled to have you join me today for part two of my inspiring interview with the remarkable Johanna Crawford. If you haven't yet listened to the part one, I encourage you to pause this episode, go back, and tune in to Tuesday's conversation. It's one you won't want to miss. Joanna's story is both empowering and transformative. In this second part of our interview, Joanna continues to inspire with her insights on reframing domestic violence as intimate terrorism, the profound role of self forgiveness, and why self worth is the foundation for achieving our dreams. She also shares how her innovative paid forward program has created a ripple effect, touching over 10,000 lives through her organization, Web of Benefit. Get ready to be moved, motivated, and inspired by this extraordinary woman who is changing the world one dream at a time. Let's dive in part two of this incredible conversation. Enjoy.
I don't think that I actually have true awareness of 2,200 women because the number is too big. And it really was just one foot in front of the other for 12 years. Um, but when I look at the book, and I'm not an author or a writer, but I did write a book, which is miraculous. And I think it's a wonderful read for all women. But when I look in the book, there are 5 stories that women wrote about themselves that I was so honored that they would give to the book, but also lots of little stories about women. I can reread those and I can remember those women, and the 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 big picture is too big, but looking at the women individually is incredibly rewarding. And I think it helped me heal from my intimate terrorism.
Right.
And I think anything we do for anybody else comes back tenfold. And I do, especially in this day and age with LGBTQ people and immigrants and um, all the racism and anti-Semitism, if we can reach out and help others in just teeny little ways,
Mm-hmm.
and it sounds trite, but in any way you can, it's not selfish, selfless. It's really selfish because it comes back to you. And I'm all for selfish. I think selfish
Yeah,
is
I,
great.
I totally get what you're
But
saying because
it
it's like we feel good about it.
we need to care about other humans, especially in this day and age. And it does. I volunteer as often as I can, and just paying it forward, it changes the whole energy of the planet in small ways, but all of us doing that together, we can make a huge difference.
Yeah, I agree with you. I wanted to talk to you about abuse because I think a lot of people don't understand that abuse can come in so many different ways. Um, when they hear about a woman being abused, immediately they feel, oh, it's because her husband beat her up. Yeah, that's a horrible abuse. But abuse can come from friends,
Right,
and it doesn't have to be physical. Abuse can come from parents, talking down on you
right,
constantly and giving
right.
you emotionally abuse. So can you explain to my audience what are the signs to know that you are in an abusive relationship?
Well, as I said earlier, I think abuse is on the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was first married, I was married at 20 and I was working for a company in Boston. And I had two bosses who were very nice. And the day that I left, one of the bosses took me out for lunch and sat me down on the bench and told me what he wanted to do with me. And I was 20 years old. I didn't even know what words he was using. I mean, I'm very naive, but um, and that can happen to anybody anytime. And I think what we have to realize is that's about the abuser. That wasn't about me. I never caused that to happen.
Mhm.
So I think the advice that I can give to your listeners is be really aware of what people are saying and doing. And if it doesn't feel right, it isn't right. If you think you are being abused, and the psychological, calling you stupid, calling you ugly, calling you worthless, calling you whatever to manipulate you, to make you feel worse, whatever that is, you don't deserve that.
Mhm.
I think we get invested in relationships, and especially if it's family, that's really tough. But we get invested in families, and as I said, and you say this too, we shrink to fit. We
Mhm.
become less and less so that we don't exist anymore. We're just a tool for somebody else. So if you're not feeling good in your heart, if you're not feeling good in your head, there's also religious abuse, there's spiritual abuse, there is
Mm.
financial abuse.
Yes,
Financial abuse is the biggest way abusers keep women in relationships because they can't leave with kids. Or I mean, I have women who have stayed in relationships for their pets because they love their dogs and cats so much.
I know.
Um, but be curious about what's going on. Um, the thing that I really want everybody to look at is Google gaslighting, Google narcissistic personality disorder. That is everywhere. And it may not be a personality disorder, but narcissism is brutal. Um, Ego is a killer.
Yeah.
Um, so be curious. If it doesn't feel right, it isn't right. Abuse doesn't go away. If it starts in little ways, it's control is always the beginning.
Hmm.
And then they don't want you to be with your friends and family. They want you to be, totally ostracized. Um, it's insidious in these little teeny ways that it will grow so big that you will get to the point where you say, oh my God, how the hell did I get here? But it's such little increments that you just don't know it. So you have to be conscious and curious about and use your gut. Your gut is way smarter than your head. If it feels awful in your tummy, it's not good. And
I know.
trust that your gut, your intuition is a muscle that you need to use. Our heads, our brains are so full of misperceptions. Like my mother used to say to me, and it's probably true, can't you just be nice? And probably I wasn't nice. And I was a really angry teenager because my household was god awful.
Right.
But that can't you just be nice is like, that's in my brain, but that's not in my gut. My gut is
Right.
pure. My heart and my soul are pure, but the head is assumptions and expectations really screw us up.
Yeah. And
So I
I
hope that's
think,
helpful.
yes, of course. And I think to add to that, when you live in the garbage, it doesn't stink anymore. We get used to it. You know,
Yes, that's
we
so
start
hard
lowering
to,
we start lowering the bar and lowering
right,
the bar and lowering the bar. And if you think about it, when we are in an abusive relationship, if we think about what we're living in that moment, would we have tolerated 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago? We wouldn't. But we didn't get to this place overnight.
right,
It's what we accept every single day, and in a way convince ourselves that it's okay,
right,
and he doesn't mean it, and I make him mad, and I it's also my fault, and I should have handled it differently, and I don't want to have the confrontation, and we start creating. I remember the excuses.
yeah, right.
I remember the lyings. I remember one time my dad asked me, "What happened in your eye?" Because I had a black eye. And I said, "Oh my God," he turned around in the middle and then I hit me with the elbow, and I was a great storyteller in
Oh,
telling
yeah,
him,
right,
you know, I mean, I'm not a good liar.
right,
My kids have this game, with cards that you're supposed to lie, and they always know when I don't have the right cards. So I suck at lying. But when I was in that relationship, I was a great actress, and I would come up with stories, and I would go in details in the stories, to camouflage what was happening to me.
right,
And and then justify also his behavior. Maybe I should not answer that way. Maybe what is my responsibility on that? So we started lowering that bar to a point that we are not ourselves anymore. And we convince ourselves that this is it and we don't deserve anything else. And I
right,
love him. And why do you love him? You don't love him. That's not love.
yeah,
When you really feel love, It's
right,
like, don't laugh at me, but it's like when you really have sex, oh, this is sex, the other things were whatever,
right,
same thing with love, you
right,
feel that love, and you know in your gut, as you said, this is right for me.
right.
And we have to all be in that place.
What you said is so true, and really one of the biggest takeaways I think about abuse is you have to be 100% present and 100% aware of what is being done to you. But you also have to know, with a capital K, that none of this is your fault. You have never, ever, ever deserved anything but the best. And that is really hard to learn when you have been so wrecked.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you always deserve the best, and none of it did you deserve, and none of it is about who you are.
Yeah. Ladies, it's time to break free from the monotony and step into a life full of possibilities. Discover the magic of my retreats, a transformative experience where you will connect with like minded women, rejuvenate your spirit, and set the stage for your personal growth. Join my sisterhood of empowered women who are ready to support, inspire, and grow together. Or inquire about coaching. Don't wait any longer to live the life you deserve. Reach out now and start your journey to a more balanced, fulfilling, and joyful life. The time for change is now. For more information, visit my website, Claudia Noriega Bernstein, or send me a DM on Instagram today. All the information you need is in the bottom of the description of this episode. Let's shift together and make your dream life a reality. Wow. Well, I can talk to you for 10 hours, but we can't. I wanted to ask you, if people need help, what should be the first step?
I would Google domestic violence agencies in your
Mhm.
area because um, they're not just residential. They also have community outreach.
Yeah.
Um, and they will always help you with what the next step is. There are also state agencies. There's janedoe.org. But there are state agencies in every state in the United States
Mm-hmm.
for domestic violence / intimate terrorism. Do we have 5 minutes or are we running over
Of
time?
course. No. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So when I was talking about giving grants
Mm-hmm.
to the survivors, I had to figure out what they needed for a grant because I didn't have money to waste. So I
Right.
couldn't make mistakes.
Right.
And we didn't give grants to survivors unless they had been out of the relationship for 6 months because they weren't capable of deciding what the next step was going to be until they had that healing period and got over what I call survival mode, where they couldn't think about the future at all.
Mhm.
So I I had only referrals from advocates. So the advocates from, well, we ended up by giving grants in 26 states. So needless to say, I worked with hundreds, if not thousands of advocates. They knew what
Right.
we did. They knew how I did it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it would be the survivor and the advocate and me. And we would need to decide how best to spend the money. And of course, the survivors were very nervous because they'd never met me before. They were meeting this person, Joe Crawford, and she's going to help you, give you money, and she's going to blah, blah, blah. And nobody's like, oh my God, how's this going to work? So
Right.
I really only had an hour or an hour and a half to spend with each woman because I had so many places to go and things to do. So again, with the universe, I said, okay, I have to do a life plan with these women to figure out what the first step is, right? Because where do we
Right.
want to get to in the end? And it may be right, it may be wrong, but at least we needed an idea of what that first step might cost.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't call it a life plan because if anybody had said to me, Joe, we're going to do a life plan for you, I'd say, oh my God, I can't do that. That's so scary, right? That's a
Right.
big thing. So I said to the universe, what am I going to call it? So I'm not going to scare women. And we called it the dream proposal.
Oh, I know. I read about that. You have a book with the steps.
Okay, can
Yes.
we do it quickly?
Of
It only take
course.
5 minutes. Okay,
Yes.
I'm
Go
glad you
for
read
it.
about it. So, first of all, we believe in self-forgiveness, we believe
Yeah.
in worthiness, and we
Yeah.
believe in self-esteem. So we
Mm-hmm.
deserve the best. Nobody in my life had ever asked me what your biggest dream is. And nobody in these women's lives had ever asked them what their biggest dream was. So I also came to realize it wasn't just about the dream and the money part, but it was the fact that one person, just one person, believed that you deserved it and you had the power
That's what it
to do it,
takes.
right?
Yeah.
Life changing.
Mm-hmm.
So if your listeners would get a piece of paper and a pen, we'll do a really quick dream proposal in 5 minutes. Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, so the dream proposal, and you're going to put this on your refrigerator so you can look at it every day. You also have to dream out loud because you don't know who will help you when you say it out loud. You cannot keep
That's true.
a
You
secret.
have to enroll everybody around you so they
Absolutely.
can.
Only those that you trust, of course. So
Right.
anyway, 3 parts. The first question is, what is your biggest dream? The second question are, what are the steps and goals? And the third question, which I asked the survivors, was what is the price of the first step? Because that's all we could do. But for your listeners, third question is, what is the first step to take tomorrow? Okay. So back to the first question, what is your biggest dream? That had 5 parts. And I tried to make this as fun as possible because these women had never been able to dream before. And they're like, oh my God, how do I even do this? But so the first part of the biggest dream is, what is your dream house? Most of these women didn't even have apartments. They were still living in shelters. So, but we didn't talk about what is your dream apartment. That's not big enough. So we would actually design the house. So for your listeners, maybe you live in a dream house, but what would you like additionally in your dream house. But for those of us who don't, how many bedrooms? How many bathrooms? Is it in the city? Is it in the suburbs? Do you have a yard? Do you have a pool? Do you have a garage? Design the house. Cut out pictures, make a dream board, however you want to do it. Okay.
That's the basic of manifesting.
Yeah, but make it fun, but know, and we know,
Mm-hmm.
intention is what creates your life.
Yeah.
So I have a sign right in front of me. Don't know where the quote came from, but it says, think abundantly, energy follows intention. That sign is in front of my desk every day.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we have the dream house. Now, I'm a crazy car person. So what is your dream car? And some of these women had 2 and 3 kids. So they're saying, I want a minivan. No, 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 no. We do not do minivans. They're not allowed. A Maserati or a Ferrari or a Porsche,
Something convertible.
yeah, a convertible, especially in Miami. Okay. So then, let's see, dream travel. I love to travel. The first trip without the kids. The second trip can be to Disney World with the kids. Oh, by the way, it's probably the most expensive place on the planet to go to is Disney World. But anyway, let's see. Dream car, dream travel, dream house. Then we got to self-care.
Mm.
Oh, the first one. I don't want to do it last. I want to do it first. Dream career. Not dream job, dream career. And this may not be your career for life, but for example, I had a woman from Brazil. We did a lot of grants to non-English speaking women, so we used a lot of translators. So this wonderful woman spoke Portuguese. So, and we could do the dream even with translation, which was great. So she had finished 5th grade in Brazil, but she wanted to be a doctor.
Big dream.
Right, this is big enough. So,
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't speak English and she hadn't finished high school. She hadn't even gone to 6th grade. So what do we have to do? We can figure this out. So that drops down to steps and goals, which we'll talk about next. So after dream career, it finally occurred to me like 5 years after I was doing this. The fifth piece had to be self-care because
Mm-hmm.
these women didn't have 5 minutes to take care of themselves, nor did
Right.
they believe they deserved any self-care. So we talked about things like taking a bath, taking a walk, cooking something that you like, reading a book, things that didn't cost money. Also, we talked a lot about gratitude. And part of the self-care, and I would give women journals that were just composition books, but journals that they could write 5 things per day that they were grateful for.
Oh my God. It's
Even if that
incredible.
was the only self-care they did. And they didn't have a lot to be grateful for, but they had a clean place to put their head. They had a safe place for their kids. They had food on the table. They had somebody that cared about them. So anyway, so self-care was part 5 of the big dream. Then let's drop down to question 2, which are the steps and goals. So we're
Mm-hmm.
going to go back to the lady from Brazil. So she needed to learn how to speak English first. There are free English classes available, but
Mm-hmm.
she didn't have transportation on the subway to get there. So we could give her 6 months of subway tokens to get to the English class. Then she needed a GED to finish high school, which she could also do for free, but she needed a laptop. We gave her the laptop. When she finished the GED, we could give her the application money and 1 class at community college.
Wow.
She had finished community college and she was looking for a 4-year school. So she was on her game,
Excuse me.
and that was just about $1,000.
Wow.
But there is the steps and goals are, you can do it. You can do it. So let's get down to the last question, which is the first step. So for her, it was research-free English classes.
Right.
She didn't have to sign up. She didn't have to do anything. She needed to research free English classes. From that, the English class showed itself. Her advocate helped her sign up, and she progressed all the way through. The steps kept showing themselves,
And little by little, she reached that goal.
one step at a time.
I love that. It's so funny because listening to you, and I think how I coach the women that I coach. I had one time a lady that was in a very abusive relationship, and she was even scared to meet me in my studio. So I had to meet her in a coffee shop.
Yep, yep,
And she used to come with her sister. And little by little, she started making those steps. And one of the things I used to say to her was, when you wake up in the morning after you send your kid to school and your husband leave the house, I want you to go for a walk around your block. And all those steps that you said is kind of confirmation to me that I was doing the right thing with her, because I was giving her those steps. Be grateful for what you have. But what am I going to be grateful for? I don't like my life, but you do have a home, and your kids are healthy, and you have a bed, and you have food in your table. There are people that don't have that. So be grateful for what you do have, you know? And I start pointing out those things to her. To make this story short, she I found one of my friends that was a pro bono lawyer, help her in her divorce. When she went to court, the husband didn't even recognize her because she was dressed different, her hair was different, she had makeup on. Now she's working. This happened like 5 years ago, whatever.
yeah,
But it changed her life, and those little steps is what changed her life. The first step was, I need help, and asked her sister to ask a friend of her who knew me, can you coach her? And she didn't even have money to pay me.
right,
So I said to her, it's okay, you can pay me whatever you because I wanted her to make an effort, even if it's $10, I don't
right,
care, but I
right,
want you to pay
right,
me what
right,
you
right,
can pay me.
right.
So she will come, and then she started coming by herself. The sister wasn't coming anymore. And little by little, she started getting that confidence back. Then she asked him to leave. She got a lawyer. She got a divorce. And now she lives in that house that this man made her feel it was a favor to her.
Right.
Found out that this man had another family in Tijuana. So now she gets alimony and child support, and she lives in her house. And her life changed 180 just because she made that first step of asking for help.
Yep, that was the first step, talking to the friend.
Yeah.
That's that's how teeny, although it was probably very brave of her to do that. But honestly, the smallest step will lead to the next step.
Yeah.
And another thing that I want to say is that everything good starts from the bottom up, not from the top down. So no matter how little your ideas are or how small your dreams are, start, just start from the bottom up and know that you deserve to dream bigger than you've ever dreamt before.
No.
And because I'm that much older than you are, it comes more easily to me, but we need to be grateful for our health
Mm.
above all things. If we are healthy, we are blessed, because there are so many people in this country who aren't healthy and fight every day to get their medications. And also we have to take care of our bodies. So please, everybody, take care of your bodies, because that is the vessel in which your soul lives.
Yeah, and what allows us to be at service.
Right.
If we're not healthy,
Very
we
true.
can be at
Right.
service. I wanted to ask you, what do you think is your superpower?
I think I'm a really good listener.
Mm, that's beautiful.
I think I'm also a problem solver. So I can listen to somebody and care about them, but also try and figure out how to solve the problem.
Yeah, those are very good superpowers.
Thank you.
I appreciate you spending this time with me, Joe. I really enjoyed it, and um, I think what you're doing is incredible, and I really look up to you, and I see so many possibilities for me as well. You know, what can I do to pay forward, to help other women, to empower other women? Um, I think everything comes down to our beliefs, you know, what we believe we're capable to do, what we believe um, we're here for.
Right.
And
We need to do. It's almost not a choice. I I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I so love what you do. And if there's any way that I can help you in your mission and vision, please, you know how to get in touch with me.
that, oh my gosh, I feel
Um,
so flattered, of
well,
course.
I would love, I don't know how I can help, but we never know what connections really work. And I'd like to just mention the website for the book has excerpts um, from the book, and it also has self-care, it has affirmations, it has blogs. So anyway, if anybody's interested, it's ittakes-a-woman.net, and that's the way anybody can reach me. And there's some good information about abuse and stories right on the website without even buying the book.
I'm gonna have all your links in the description of the show so
Okay.
they can, you know, reach out to you and absolutely I'll be in touch with you. And if I can be in any help with the women that you I want to say to the woman that you give wings because
Thank
that's
you.
what you do. And if I can help you in any way, I would be honored to be able to do that. So I right back at you. If we can do something together, I will feel so blessed and so lucky to be part of it.
Wonderful. It's been a great conversation. Thank you so much.
It's been very great and I appreciate you so much.
I hope we'll be in touch.
Thank you all for listening to the Don't Shrink to Fit podcast. If you like this episode, please write a juicy comment below and subscribe to my podcast. Remember, we can only fly if we embrace each other. Until next week, be happy, be safe, and be kind to yourself.